It excites me that you're here. John Hester, thank you. I appreciate you being here. Why don't you go ahead, first of all, tell us how you're doing today, and then give us a little bit of background on yourself, a little bit of what your business is.
Sure. Well, I'm doing great. As we talked earlier, traffic wasn't too bad, and that's always a way that can ruin your day. But no, traffic was great getting over here. It wasn't too bad of a drive. Where to start is kind of an interesting question. I mean, I've only had my consulting business for a little over a year. Started it as something to do, both as something to do and to have a little income. After I retired, 26 years with Warner Media, Time Warner, Turner, whatever company you want to call them, because it's been through an evolution over those 26 years.
Sure.
During that time, almost all 26 years, I was energy manager for that company. Worked my way up from just with Turner to being the corporate energy manager for Warner Media by the time I retired, and that's probably where I made the biggest splash, if you want to call it that, in terms of what I did for the company. I did other things too. I was director of engineering. I led a project team of engineers that did design and construction for Turner Broadcasting and for Warner Media. And then at the end, I was the executive director of global building engineering for all of Warner Media Corporate, which included HBO and Warner Brothers, as well as Turner Broadcasting, and leading the operations team as far as a center of excellence to help coordinate operations such as electrical, mechanical services, maintenance operations, and energy as well. So that's where I really got my experience. And the last thing that I did with Warner Media was when we built the new headquarters in Manhattan, consolidating all of our New York offices. The new building called Hudson Yards, we were kind of a building within a building. It's a 100-story building, but we have like about 40 stories of it. We had our own systems inside rather than using the landlord system. But we were tasked with building a building that was not obsolete by the time we opened it.
Right.
And so what we wanted to do was have a smart building control system, not just building control, but an intelligent building system. And that was my job to bring that in. As the client representative working with the contractors and engineers to make that happen. And when we opened the building at the end of 2019, it was the largest smart building system in the industry. It won awards, and so with that area of experience and expertise and my energy background, that's the foundation of which I started my consulting business after I left Warner Media.
Sure. Well, that's exciting. You get to kind of take your own control of your own business after you retire, and you obviously had a good time with COVID. It gives you a good segue into this, and this is really exciting to me because Tristan, I wish you had a mic sometimes, but we really boiled down like our ideal audience for this podcast, and really what we decided, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is like those entrepreneurs in the first two business that really need some education or some motivation within their business. Like we want to narrow it down to specifically talk to those people, like we want to answer questions for those people. It's like you're early in entrepreneurship, don't give up. If you're having issues, you have questions, you can look through, like we're creating a database, a list of people on our YouTube channel. They're like the problem solvers of every industry or someone that's already in your industry. So it's exciting to me to talk to someone that's really been in that entrepreneurial journey. You're really our ideal audience. Like I'm interested to you to pose the question of, before we really dig into what your business is like, do you consume any content like this? Like as far as your business goes, do you listen to business podcasts? What kind of content, like where do you do your learning from as far as your business goes? Because I know it's kind of you have a ton of experience in the business world, but it is a new venture for you. There's always kind of learning curves. So
that's a good question. And it's tough for me because I want my consulting business for me, and it's to be part-time. It's tough for me to balance the learning part with the actual business part. My learning right now is with webinars and reading the other experts in my field, their articles, because I've done the same thing. I've done webinars and written articles, but I need to hear back from them as well. Podcasts, I've listened to a couple. Not that's probably not the primary way I'm learning. It's again hearing those other experts in the field, getting their experiences, so I can kind of their specific experiences, because webinars usually are pretty focused on either a project or their experience in a specific field, pretty narrow focused, and of course articles are that way as well, and that's how I've really tried to keep my saw sharp, if you use the Stephen Covey terminology, to keep learning.
Right, and the reason I ask is because the same thing applies. Is like you're finding content dedicated specifically to your industry or your field or the area of your business that you're looking to grow. There's almost 70 episodes out now, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe 10 of them are relevant. 15 of them are relevant just because we're playing a numbers game. Maybe a small percentage of those are going to be very relevant to problems or issues or people that you want to connect with within your business. So like that's really like, and like podcasts all doing the same thing. Like even the most famous podcasts in the world are doing, sometimes like Joe Rogan's a good example. It's like sometimes he's doing MMA and sometimes he's doing aliens and sometimes he's doing nutrition and sometimes he's doing this. Like sometimes he's talking to legislators. Like he's talking to all of these different people. There may only be 15 or 20% of a Joe Rogan podcast or the whole catalog of Joe Rogan podcasts that you're interested in. But that's what we want to create, is this catalog of very relevant business information that is as exciting as possible. And we really want to solve a problem there. You know what I mean? So, and we really want to kind of refine that to a skill. So why don't you tell us that, what you're looking for within your consulting business? What is the value that you guys bring?
Well, it's just me. So it's just me, and my wife every once in a while helps me out with some writing because she's a journalist and public relations expert. So that's a good
very
resource.
Valuable.
Very much so. But the value I bring, I think, my focus has been to be really not to help other consultants that need my unique experience. Other either consultants such as engineers that are doing a design but don't have that smart building experience, or someone that needs energy experience, energy knowledge, energy management expertise, that knows how to deal with the utilities, knows the ins and outs of what things are efficient and what processes and what even the basics of energy management are, because a lot of people don't sometimes recognize that. I'm a back to the basics kind of guy, and so I've really focused my business on trying to help other consultants sell to their clients those services that they may not have that niche available. I can help them with that for a particular project or particular opportunity to sell. I also help some contractors as well in the smart building environment because they know that I understand it from a user standpoint, from a client standpoint, and I can help them communicate with their client the things that they need to see or need to consider when they're considering expanding their smart building operations or even creating a smart building program.
Sure. Well, let me try to, take a shot in the dark here and boil down that skill that we were talking about earlier. It seems that setting the expectations of services or technology has really been, what that skill that you've developed, that's kind of been commanded from you, because it seems that through your media days, they kind of hand you more. They just kind of keep giving you a little bit more responsibility over the technology stuff. So what would you say is that skill that made you not only successful in your media days, but also that you've kind of used in order to transition as providing value to some of these other consultants?
Well, I think it's that's an interesting question, so my technical skills and my reputation have helped me get the foot in the door, and then being able to communicate to the client or to the other consultant, I think, has been the skill. Because if you can be smart, but if you can't communicate you can't make that connection with somebody that understands what you're trying to accomplish. And when you're dealing with things that are relatively complicated or relatively new from a technology standpoint, you need to be able to break it down to its basics so someone understands what you're doing, why they should do it. I mean, that's the real reason, right? That's how you sell anything, is you make somebody understand why they should buy or why they should do the service that you're trying to sell them.
Sure. And so troubleshooting is probably a skill of yours as well.
Yeah, and that particularly in my engineering life, helping solve technical problems. If something's not working right, somebody's too hot, or we're having power issues. Getting the team together or figuring out myself is part of it as well. And in the same smart building system too, you need to figure out why something's not working.
Well, there's tremendous value in that too, and I'll tell you kind of from our like a little bit of experience that we have that I think is like a similar kind of a similar type of interaction is like in the merchant services world. There is a lot of interaction with developers. Like you want your website to be able to take payments through this processor, or you want your software to be able to take payments through this processor. There is a very select group of people out there that speak both the payments language and the development language.
Right.
Like they're marrying the ability to sell and understand the technology is like the most rare form of Super Saiyan salesman that you'll ever find in the payments game. I think it's similar to what you have is like you learn and understand the technology, whether it be very granular or from a 30,000 foot view. But the skill there is that, and your communication skills are over here. The skill is that you can marry those things and like, I can explain to you, someone that doesn't need to know the intricacies of the technology, and make you understand what the function is. And if something's going wrong, I can explain it to you and set the expectation of how we're going to fix it. Business lacks that. Like business in general, and I say basically all businesses, like you see a lot of those small businesses where you find that one person that's having to do all that. They're delivering the product, they're being the consultant, they're managing their own business, they're having to set the expectations and sell to their client. So it's a lot of things. So tell me this as well. When you have those meetings with these consultants, when you're trying to be of value and kind of bring some life into these consulting businesses, what are those conversations like? How are you pinpointing those people's skills and where they lack, and how are you helping those people continue to develop?
Well, I try to make them understand that, particularly in the smart building world, that's the way things are going. Smart building is still being embraced by some people that don't recognize how important it's going to be able to leverage all of the data you have from your different control platforms. I hope I'm not getting too technical there.
No.
But to the way to use that information in a way that makes your business better and more effective. So the first thing is to convince them that this either get on board or you're going to get passed up. The second thing then I try to do is say, look, I've been there from a client standpoint. I understand what a client is going to go through, what a client needs to think about at the beginning, which sometimes if you don't think about something in the beginning, you're all of a sudden behind on the project. So those things I've experienced, I've made the mistakes that I can help your clients avoid making. So it's those two things that I try to talk to with either the consultant or when I'm with the consultant talking to the client.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. And what are those? So do you have those interactions where you're helping the consultant with a specific client?
Yes, I do.
Oh, so they bring you in. You're like, hey, we're kind of outside of our wheelhouse here. Can we find someone that kind of be a third party that kind of assist us in the
either that or an owner say here's an owner that's experienced what you're experiencing now, and he can tell you what he did. If he in a couple of cases, I'm working with consultants that did work for me when I was at Warner Media.
Oh wow!
So now they're bringing me on to be the voice of the customer to help the customer understand. Okay, this client. He did this. He understands what needs to be done. Let's hear his perspective on everything.
Sure.
And that's where I can provide a unique service for the consultants because I've sat on the other side.
Sure. Did you develop a pretty strong network when you were with Warner Media?
Yeah, I did. I was very lucky because I was involved in so many different, very interesting and projects that some of them were pretty noteworthy, like the Hudson Yards project in New York. And even before that, Time Warner Center that was built at the beginning of in the early 2000s, iconic structures in New York that I consider one of those to be a once-in-a-lifetime project. And be able to be involved in two of them, I consider myself very lucky to be involved in those.
Sure. And so with that network, how does that, beyond some of those consultants that you worked with, then do you still keep up with any of those people within the media world?
Yes, I do. Especially in the not the media world from the construction standpoint. Those that
Okay.
whether it's people that I worked with internal broadcasting or Warner Media, whether it's the IT team or the other parts of the maintenance team or the engineers. A couple of broadcast folks, I guess I still am, I keep in touch with.
Sure.
But mostly it's people that I worked with internally directly, or those consultants and contractors that I also worked with.
Sure. Well, that's good. So you retire from your media days, and then you're transitioning into this consulting business, and you have this network, and you have this understanding of some of the people that you're going to work with and what problem you're going to solve. Tell us about some of the challenges, because I know that it's never as easy as it sounds. It's never as smooth as it sounds. So.
No, well, I mean, I had to learn how to be a businessman. When you worked in corporate, I mean, I was 26 years with Warner Media, but my total corporate experience is almost 40 years. But I was always working for a big company that I didn't have to worry about accounting. I didn't have to worry about all those business licenses and all that stuff. So just learning how to be a businessman, not that it was hard, but just knowing what everything needs to be done to have a legal business. What's the best way to incorporate yourself? Should I incorporate myself? So those things I know sound kind of mundane, but if you're getting started for the first time, it's things you want to do. I got my I learned what kind of legal assistance I might need and how best way to get that, and then of course was marketing yourself. How do you let people know that you're available? You want to do some work. And look, I'm an engineer. I'm not a sales guy, and that's something that gets outside of my comfort zone. So
Sure.
That's why it was good for me to have a network of people I was comfortable talking to. But at the same time, I needed to push out a little bit and get out of my comfort zone to maybe talk to somebody I didn't know, or to at least reach out. And I used the webinars and some other people that I knew helped connect me with people. So using a network
Sure.
was a great advantage to do that.
Sure. And what about the community aspect of that? Because I know that there are a lot of those people, either both from in the consulting space as well as the media space, where if you leverage your community right, you have the ability to kind of exponentially grow your network there as well. As did you find any of those other communities out there? Are there any business associations or anything else like that? That was kind of a big part of you kind of continuing to market yourself, or?
I started to. I did try to work with or join a small business networking group, and I didn't find that to be as helpful as I thought it might be, and that's probably as much my fault as anything. Because again, I'm not as entrepreneurial as some of them because my work is part time. But what I really the communities I did try to focus in is more the technical communities, like there's an outfit called Realcomm. They're the ones that they're an organization that focuses on smart building technology. They host webinars, they host conferences, they have a magazine. So I got involved with them, and fortunately they liked some of the things I had to say and invited me to lead some webinars or participate, I should say. I wrote a few articles for them, and writing those articles got me attention. People were interested
Sure.
in what I wrote. So those kinds of things is how I kind of expanded my network.
How does the written content play into your growth? Because that's something we're not doing a lot of. I'm just curious from a small business perspective. Is we either hear, and Tristan can probably vouch for me. Is we either hear that some people are really against, I did all this written content, it was a waste of time. And then there's the other aspect. It's oh, I did this written content and it went really well. It helped me with my community. Does that play into your business at all, or is that just kind of a credibility thing?
Well, I think it's a little of both, because I mean, you need the credibility to have someone want to do business with you.
Sure.
And writing those articles, first of all, was a learning process. That goes back to your question about how did you learn. Well, to write an article, you had to do a little research because I didn't know everything offhand. That's concepts I wanted to develop. Also, in writing those articles, it also helped my network, because in one of the articles, I wrote a 2-part article for Realcomm that I actually interviewed people to get their perspective on a certain topic, and that's both a networking and a learning exercise as well. And so I feel like to really answer your question, I got a lot of positive feedback from those articles. They were posted on the Realcomm website. I posted them on my website. They were posted on LinkedIn, and I got a lot of feedback from all three of those platforms. And I noticed on my website, that's another thing about building a business is nowadays you have a website, and I noticed how traffic to my website spiked after the release of the articles.
Sure.
So to me, that's a positive thing.
Did you know you were going to do this when you retired?
It's funny. I thought when I retired that maybe I'll work part time. I don't know when I'll start, but maybe I'll do that just to stay busy. And then a colleague of mine who retired shortly before me, because my retirement was part of it. I retired when I wanted to, but it also was fortuitous because it was part of the AT&T Warner Media merger, and they were letting people retire. Exactly, and part of that package included being able to use a headhunter firm, a recruiting firm, a career firm really is better. And one of my colleagues that got their retirement 6 months ahead of mine said, "John, you've got to use this career firm. Even if you're not going to use it right away, use them because they're good. They help you focus." I go, all right. So I did that. And between that and...
I bet that's a pretty cool contract to have. It's like everybody that retires early between this merger, we're going to help you find... Oh, my God.
Well, and thing is, I also realized that if I was going to work in what I'm doing now, I had to stay, and I say jokingly but seriously, I had to stay relevant. If I waited a few years, people were going to forget where I was.
You'd get obsolete like the technology.
I would be obsolete, and I would forget. I would be behind in keeping up with the technology.
Right.
So I quickly realized I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it now. So I retired in December of 2019, and the business was up and running in February of 2020, just before COVID hit.
Wow. Well, that's a skill in itself. Keeping relevant. Keeping your head above the water where everybody can see you is a skill within itself. So that's exciting, man. I'm excited to see kind of where you end up, what kind of people that you end up doing some business with, because I know you can, from your expertise and the skills that you developed, I know you can bring the value there. I'm just interested to see where it goes. I think that you will be surprised the way that you continue to put yourself out there, how little time you spend working part-time. So
that's going to be the challenge, I think. I've told some people that.
Keeping it part-time?
Keeping it part-time, yeah. And things have, now that COVID is relaxing, I've gotten several more phone calls and emails about opportunities. It's picked up dramatically in the past month.
Sure.
Nothing's borne fruit yet, but it seems pretty darn close.
Sure. Well, where can we find you? If people are looking to kind of have that conversation with you, how do they find you?
Well, my website is www.hesterconsulting.net. My email address is john.hester@hesterconsulting.net.
Sure.
That's easy enough to reach me in those two ways. You can look at the Realcomm and look at articles on Realcomm. You can see where I've written some articles there and done some webinars. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best way to get a hold of me.
How can we help you? Who are you looking to get connected to out there in the community? If somebody's got that $1 million referral that helps you retire again, what does that perfect referral look like? Where do you find it?
I think if there's other MEP consultants out there that need some that recognize they need to get in the smart building business and need someone to help them promote that to their clients, I'd be the right person to do that, because I may be a one-person band, but I have affiliates that I can work with that also help me. So if the project gets too big, I can pull in resources whenever it's necessary. So I don't want to be concerned that just because I'm one person, I can't handle a big job. I can always pull in the resources I need.
Sure.
And of course, the other strong thing I do is anybody, whether it's an end user or not, energy management from a corporate standpoint. I was very successful in that for 26 years, won some awards, and I could point to a lot of money that I saved my company when I was doing that. So sure. any corporation that thinks energy is an issue, I can help them out.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. And as far as, the title of the podcast goes, Burn the Ship, have you heard that phrase before?
I'm assuming, and tell me if I'm wrong, it kind of comes from back when the Spanish conquistadors landed.
All over it. You're all over it.
That the captain, that they were committed because he made them burn their ship.
Absolutely right. So that is what we believe business is. It's like you burn the ship and you go all in
That's
on
right.
your business. So what would you tell to someone that's kind of weighing their options as far as burn the ship goes?
I'd say do something you like, because if you like it, you'll do well at it, and then the money will come on itself.
Sure. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you being here.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.